good afternoon, and welcome to Tech Talk, where you got three tech heads here. We're going to talk about tech stuff. There's lots of things, there's always things going on in technology.
Always. It's never ending.
Yeah.
It's always changing every day, whether it's a new technology, new viruses, new malware, whatever. It's always new.
Well, it doesn't have to all be bad.
Well, it's not always bad. Some of it's good. We get new updates, and then new viruses that come out and affect that. So, yeah, it's new and bad all at the same time.
And they put out patches and stuff. You need to turn down the speakers behind here.
It sounds like you guys are half empty rather than half full.
Well, it's all,
Sure.
it happens. It happens. But, yeah, there's all,
There needs to be 4 of me.
Well, we try.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what about all of these new things and stuff? Let's talk about one of the first things right out of the gate about the Apple iPhone. So the government couldn't crack it, or now they can. So what's the?
Well, they've given
talk
up
about that.
the lawsuit with Apple as far as you have to let us in this thing. So, as with a lot of security things, as time goes on, hackers and different people learn how to get into stuff.
Yep.
That's why there's updates continually. So what they've done, I think they broke into it and copied the information. So then they can play with that copy,
Yep.
trying to get into it. And if we mess up that one, we still have a copy of that copy.
So what they did is they created a virtual iPhone.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling
and
me?
then they can experiment and do
Yeah.
whatever they want with it. And it's what I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, is they got into the phone, they copied the information, but the information is still encrypted. Just like the iPhone does a certain amount of encryption, but then there's apps that also do encryption, whether it's messaging or
Right.
note-taking or whatever. Each of those has its own.
So, and this is a question I'm not an encryption specialist. But
Me
anyway,
neither.
so does that mean each program's encrypted, Kingsley? Or is the whole phone, as the operating system, one big encryption? Or is it notes encrypted and email encrypted? So do they have to break each individual one?
I'd
Or do
say
we know?
yes.
I don't know. It's an Apple. I'm not a,
Let's say there's a safe,
yeah.
and you don't have the combination to get in. That was level 1.
That's one.
They had to be able to get into it.
This is the safe.
Now, yes, thank you. Now everything that's in there has been, scrambled or locked. It's coded.
There's lock boxes inside
So
the
there's
safe.
lock boxes in the safe.
So
yeah.
if you get into the phone, theoretically you could get to iCloud and you could get pictures because you have access to the things that Apple allows you to access.
Right.
But Apple already gave them that.
Yeah, I have but they couldn't get into the
Notes.
they couldn't get into notes. They couldn't get into the device itself.
Right into the
So,
yes.
so now we're in the safe. I have a password program.
Yep.
It is encrypted, and even though it copies up to the iCloud, you're going to have to go into that program by those authors, those software programmers, and break their encryption, their version of the AES-256
Yep,
encryption,
sure.
in order to read my password stuff.
So
there's
multi-levels.
Yeah, there's multi-levels or each individual ones. So, the general phone itself, you can lock and you can encrypt all the data on it.
Now, before they got into this thing, what they did, say their carrier was maybe AT&T. AT&T gave them their messaging
Yep.
and their phone records and all the stuff that AT&T has available. Apple gave them their iCloud account stuff. So contacts and things that were backed up to the cloud were given to the FBI.
Gotcha.
But it's other things that weren't backed up in iCloud,
cloud.
whether it was
If I take
notes
pictures,
or something.
but I don't synchronize them to iCloud,
Right.
then the pictures are on the device.
So
Right.
they only lie here.
Yeah, the little note program that you mentioned,
Yeah.
those would all be on the device, not copied to the cloud. And I think they got in and realized that there's not as much there as they wanted, and I believe it was an Israeli company that had the
not sure.
technology to let them in there.
Yeah.
As far as I'm
Interesting.
concerned, how I know myself, how organized are these people? Are they going to take notes on everything and have spreadsheets about all their
Well, yeah,
their
good question. You
doings and
never know.
goings on?
Maybe they
I
have the
wouldn't.
secret formula. Who knows?
If I'm a bad guy, I'm not writing anything down. It's all up here.
Right. Yeah. I don't. I wish I could say it was up here, but sometimes you just can't remember all this stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if maybe the plan doesn't develop until 5 years from now or something.
But I'm
You
not
know, you have to
writing
think
down.
about
Let's say,
things.
here's Plan B and
Plan
Plan C.
B. Yeah, right.
Well,
So, who knows?
I think the lesson to be learned is that you don't necessarily have to lock your device and all of the contents unless you have something to hide or need to protect. I want my passwords protected.
You want your password?
Well, it's not
protected.
anything to hide as something nefarious. It's like if a student picks up my phone and I only use like a 4-digit thing
Right.
when you could use 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to protect that stuff
Right.
from anybody, not just if I'm doing something bad so the police can't see it.
Right. Right. You're just protecting it for your own benefit on that.
My
piece.
own security.
Yeah, but so with that, why couldn't the government figure out that code? I know there's a certain
You
amount
can
of
only
numbers.
try it a certain number of times,
right.
and then it
Before it-
auto erases.
Is that what it is? It automatically erases the whole
Right.
thing. So how did they? And these,
And I
obviously
can-
we don't know.
There's a Find My Phone feature too on iCloud where I can,
Oh, yeah.
if I lost it, I can hit erase and it wipes the phone.
Wonder why, or maybe they did. Maybe would the bad guys have already done that?
If I was going into
You gotta think
something,
about that.
if I was going into a building and
Yeah.
figure I'm not coming out, I'm dumping everything and going to scramble everything I've got.
Right. Yeah.
Other things in the
Thanks.
news.
Other things in news. Yeah, good.
How about anonymous?
It's
What?
anonymous.
What's is it the thing
Anonymous
where
is the group that has been
Yeah.
hacking
The hackers.
for social awareness.
hacking ISIS?
Yes.
Various people.
Yep.
Even Trump.
Even Trump.
They say
Even
he
Trump.
was trumping or hacking Trump's.
So what
Social
they're doing
Security
is they're
number and all that
taking
stuff.
down websites because they do not believe that it is socially responsible and has value. And they're going after the Islamic State sites, and they're encouraging other hackers to join along as well. And I think that's an interesting way to look at vigilantism in this
Yeah.
case.
I kind of applaud that,
Yeah.
All right.
as long as it's not infringing on free speech, which,
The part that intrigues me is now we're making popular the ability of using technology to cut down on money transactions, speech, whether or not we agree with the
yeah,
recruitment.
they were emptying out, I think, people supposedly from ISIS their Bitcoin accounts because
Yes,
they're trading
they
in
were.
Bitcoin, which is more anonymous. Not the same anonymous, but
And I think the world would probably agree that going after terrorists would be a redeemable good.
A good
Sure.
thing.
Yeah, a good thing.
Right.
But at some point it gets into gray areas, and you have
Right.
you have to look
Yeah.
at that. But
Yeah. Who do they consider terrorist? I guess if you want to call
Right.
it that. To what level?
And to be honest, I've tried to have a discussion with a couple of our students on some of these topics that are more in the gray area that you really would like to see students have engagement, and I don't see it so much.
Yeah.
no, it's not like the
do they-
60s where they're engaged in social issues other than, whining that they got their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
So it's not technology, but Trump's going to agree not to or to run as in a third party if.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If he doesn't get nominated. True. I heard that. Yeah, I heard that this morning. I think he was talking about so.
He's brought that up again?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're over.
And
always stumbling around.
was it Mayor Bloomberg?
Bloomberg. Yeah,
He
was
had
gonna
made
run.
that announcement way back, but I
Yeah.
think he took that back, right?
Yeah, he took that back. So
Hey, when we were before we getting started,
yeah.
you asked me a question about Windows 10.
Oh yeah, and that question is Windows 10 officially finished? I heard a comment that said, well, they rolled out Windows 10, but is it actually complete? Is it?
Is
an
anything ever
official-
complete?
You know,
Okay.
they said it's still
took the
working.
line.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to go.
That's
with
where
it.
you. Is it ever complete? No.
And when Pat asked us for some topics and he was writing up the abstract, I had mentioned that we're looking at Windows 10 being rolled out, and people that are seeing these big, huge updates.
Yeah.
And no, it's not ever done.
Right,
And
it's not ever done.
what it's doing is it's sort of bringing out a little bit of the digital divide discussion again, where there are some people that have a basic connection to the internet, and they're online. They're able to do some commerce. They're able to do some email, some other things. Netflix. No, they're not going to be doing Netflix because they have a cap on their satellite download. But now all of a sudden, this unfinished operating system says we're going to be constantly updating. You're never going to ever change from Windows 10 to the next version. Right. It's always going to be
It's a living thing.
Yeah, continuous. And my computer's stuck. It's operating horribly, and I'll say Jane and John Doe, say, what's wrong with my computer? And you look at it and you see partial downloads.
Yeah.
Now, the second you put it on a workbench into a location that has a really good connection to the internet, boom, it just downloads and it updates, and everything is just flowing great.
Flowing nice, yeah.
So is it bad that we have operating systems that are never finished, that are constantly improving for security, for safety, for just adding new features and cool stuff?
Depends on if it's finished to a point where everything works, and then past that they're adding features.
The default setting is go out and get the updates and install them.
Right.
And you can do change
Automatically.
those settings.
Yep.
So notify me or only when I ask. So you don't have to wait for your computer to become a baked potato sitting on your desk.
Right.
But for people that are not tech savvy, and they're confused about, well, gosh, Windows 7 wants to upgrade to Windows 10. Is it free, or are they going to come and charge me? What am I supposed to do? And there is not, except for Tech Talk.
Yeah.
There's not a good way for a lot of people to get informed unless they come over to your house
find out.
and say, hey, can you fix this for me?
Yeah.
And I think it's good that they're doing it. We're looking at the news here today, and it said that Microsoft is ballyhooing 270 million Windows 10 active users.
Wow.
And that's because they basically said, if you have a Windows 7 or an 8 or 8.1 version, we want you to just move over so everybody's on one platform that we're going to be supporting for a longer time. With standard features, it's a lot easier for support people to...
How backwards compatible, though, is it? When I moved, I can't remember from if it was 10.6 or 7 to the next version, then half of my apps on my Mac didn't work. And I spent like $1,300 to get the apps that I had that were old up to work with the current operating system.
Did you change operating systems or hardware too?
I think probably both.
Okay.
But it didn't work on the next version. And sometimes certain applications just don't work in this one. They've abandoned that old one, and then it costs me money.
Yeah. What I
So
found,
you want to, before I update, I'm searching, in my important applications, the forums, does this work with this operating system? So I don't, the update in operating system is free, but there may be hidden costs. Maybe there's not a driver for my printer, and I got to go out and buy a new printer just because I updated my operating system.
Driver? Morgan Freeman? Driving Miss Daisy?
Yeah.
Yep.
I've had to retire
that's
printers because
Yeah.
the operating system doesn't carry that model anymore.
Right.
We saw an abandonment of HP 1000 printers. The small personal size
Small
laser
personals,
jets.
yeah. 10, 12s, I've got a ton of them.
The 1200s were fine.
Right.
And that was when Windows 7 came out, because they did not do the drivers for that, and so the printers were not usable.
Yep.
Since then, things have gotten better, But just upstairs yesterday, I had a staff person, faculty member, who couldn't get audio to work because it was a low-end Logitech, not to mention brand names, but a webcam.
Yeah.
And I think what we try to do is we try to recommend low cost, medium cost, and high end products for people to choose from, and whether it's a Microsoft, Logitech, or Creative.
Creative,
They all produce good products, and you want to look at whether or not your needs are for a basic Skype session or whether you're going to be doing a tech talk from your computer, and you want to have that. The drivers are what talks to the hardware of your computer. So in order for that device, printer, scanner, mouse, keyboard, to be able to talk to your Lenovo or HP or whatever, it has to have a driver. And for the most part, they put a ton of stuff in there.
Right.
You know, I
That
hook
you
up a
don't need.
Microsoft mouse to an iPad, and it works. It just works because they're fairly simple. But the high-end ones that have a lot of extra features, they're going to write them, but they're also going to say to the manufacturer, why don't you write yours and give it to us, and we'll distribute it. And Windows 10 has been wonderful about that.
I don't know if it'll run AOL or Netscape anymore.
Oh gosh, I still have some of those disks.
Oh, yes, Netscape.
But talk about incompatible software.
Yeah. Does that run on a black and white monitor? There,
Probably,
right?
or all green.
Green.
Okay, our watching fans.
Yeah.
When the internet was born, just after Al Gore made it famous.
Yeah, in the garage, right?
In your mail, you would get an
mid-nineties.
envelope
Yeah.
that had a disk in it, and it was a way for you to put it in your computer, and you would put in your zip code. It would find out what city you were near, and then it gave you a series of phone numbers where you could dial out through your modem, and it would go into the back room of somebody's office in your hometown, and it would connect you to the internet.
Yep.
And that's where it started. Before that, there were companies such as CompuServe.
Right.
And CompuServe was a network that started from H&R Block. H&R Block offices were hooked up all over the country,
Yeah.
and they had this network for their offices. And they go, we're running a data center, nothing happens at night. And so they developed a bulletin board service, and that would connect you to their offices, and then not for business purposes with filing your taxes,
Right.
but it would connect you to the internet.
Yeah, if you remember using the internet, or your kids using the internet, and you're trying to call home because it used the phone lines,
Yeah.
and you got a busy signal, but if you had caller ID, it would break that connection,
Yep.
and then you call right back and get through, and then your kid's going, my internet just hung up.
My parents had this little compact device that ran an embedded copy of Windows. And it had the ability to call out to a Microsoft site. And when you would go through the menus, it would come up and it would say, here are your numbers. And it chose a number that was just over the ladder. And so it was a long distance phone call. And that device would automatically go out and check. You got mail? Do you got mail? Do you got mail? Do you got mail? And so the connection charges and the minimum charges for a
One
phone.
call, at a time.
My mom says, gosh, our phone bill is just so expensive. I'm going to get rid of this thing. And that was because their town did not have one of those modem banks.
Yeah.
I still
Okay,
have
is-
that thing in the basement of the house.
Do you really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I keep old technology.
Okay, you say Windows 10 is not finished. Isn't that different than the iOS 9.3 update that just came out? Which is,
I don't
Kind
see
of.
there's any difference in it.
no?
Yeah.
Because it's buggy and bricking devices.
Well, okay, but bugs and breaking things is
I think that's another go. Another.
Yeah.
I think that's a
talk altogether.
different,
sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
and
I
you
mean,
know,
there's Windows 10 updates,
Yes.
and even 7 still today. That if back to Kingsley's comment about having slow data or limited data. Oh, I've had machines here recently that downloaded an update, and it restarted, and there's nothing there. It says looking for the OS, and I'm like, what happened? And then we got to looking.
It bricks the computer?
Yeah, and it's every time it seems like there's been a large update that broke the machine. But
And bricking is sort of like making a paperweight out of something.
Yeah, and what
Door
and
stops.
Everyone that I've worked on so far has had a really bad connection.
Microsoft?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here on the Rio Grande campus, we tell our students, faculty, and staff that if they have a laptop, please bring it into campus, go over to the Grand Central, grab a cup of coffee, do your updates on the wireless. It's the least that we can do is to give them a blazing fast internet connection. Now, that doesn't mean that the general public needs to sit out in the parking lot on weekends and do it
use
from
it,
the
yeah.
comfort of their front seat of the car. But if you do not have a good connection to the internet today, I think the world has now turned where they're expecting us to have a constant, persistent, high-speed broadband connection.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that brings up the discussion about where broadband is going.
Because
Right.
everything on the App Store for your, not this App Store, but the one for your desktop computer for
Yep.
the Mac, you can't, when you buy a program, you can't go buy the program on a disk. Everything has to be downloaded.
Everything has to be
And a
downloaded.
lot of these are huge.
The iPads don't come with a disc anymore.
nothing.
They never did, I don't think.
No.
Well, I'm just saying, like
Right.
MacBooks.
Well, MacBooks, right.
MacBooks used to.
Yeah.
You're seeing, all sorts of laptops coming without an Ethernet jack anymore. And we also talked about the incompatibility of connectors.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah. That was an
you we have a staff person that lost their Ethernet jack, and the computer was under warranty, and the manufacturer said, "We cannot replace your computer. We're going to substitute."
Really?
Well, having an Ethernet jack is very important to a network person, and so we had to say, you have to provide us a network jack for the Thunderbolt connection, and we want to have an optical disc to go into the USB connection because it's still under warranty.
Right.
But we're still looking at, we've gone to wireless. Now we're expecting to have always-on Ethernet or network connections.
Yeah. Constantly.
And there are people in rural areas all over the country that just still do not have it. And one of my pet peeves is television shows where people are in the middle of nowhere and they have a cell phone signal and they're doing amazing things. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
Right. You're right. Yeah, we're not. And that's as close as a mile or two away or less.
Do you think
service.
that our cellular connections are adequate to replace a satellite connection? That somebody that's paying for HughesNet or the DirecTV equivalents, those, could see if they have an adequate cell phone signal and get one of those AT&T hotspots or a Verizon hotspot.
Yeah, one of the hotspots.
The only thing, well, with both of those, I think there are limits.
Speed limits or limits
Data
on the amount of
limits.
data?
Data limit.
Yeah, both of them have limits.
Right.
I mean, and that's just
You know, like
your phone
if you're
itself.
on HughesNet and you use up to 2 gigs or whatever, then they like throttle you down. You're
Throttle
not
you down.
downloading
So it's
anything.
time to take the yellow pad out, draw lines, write down the comparisons so that you're doing side-by-side comparisons of your options.
Right.
Yeah, and then you have to
Once
buy.
you have.
You don't. I don't think you have. Maybe you do. Do you have? Are there unlimited plans for cell phone data? I remember there used to be, and then they told me later that it's now like 10 or 2 gigs. But I never use it.
Well, state
But I don't
employees
play
on-
games and
state
stuff.
employees on a government contract say they have unlimited, and I monitor all the phones on campus, and nobody ever gets close to that because most of the time these mobile devices like cell phones are within range of a wireless.
Right.
But it's somebody at home that doesn't have a fixed wireless provider, that doesn't have a coax from the TV company, a
Right.
twisted pair from the phone company, fiber to the home. They're kind of out of luck unless they can shoot to the sky. And that is the most expensive and the most restrictive.
And I'd like to ask a real estate person if that has affected real estate costs.
I don't know about a real estate, but
Because
I
I
can
know
tell you that
I'm not going to buy a house that doesn't have high speed.
Yeah.
Pat, note to self,
Yeah.
need real estate person on Business Talk to talk about whether or not the internet connectivity is a factor in resale of a home and its appraisal.
Good thought.
Yeah.
Good thought.
Yeah,
Because
people
I
coming
know
in.
we don't have commercial internet at our house, and I'm going to have to live there forever.
No one will buy it.
Thanks a lot.
I mean, that's just yeah. I mean, you know, just to be, you know, just like that. We've got people that have joined our organization and stuff, and they looked, and you know, I was like, oh well, I live in this neighborhood, and one of the first thing they said is, "How's your internet? How's your internet speed or such?" And I'm like, well, what do you
We're
mean?
Amish.
How's your internet? Yeah, and they go, well, you know, I want to make sure we have good connections. Before they ask, well, how's your school district, or how's this, or how's that? The first thing they asked me was, how's the internet in your area?
Definitely.
If,
What do you have?
if,
Right.
if you're looking at the commerce and the economy,
Yep.
and I'm not going to get into the political side of it,
Sure.
but we have the option of pulling every copper wire out and replacing fiber across our globe, and doing a pretty good job of that. We've seen our economy shifting towards renewable energy, and
Yeah.
we're hoping that will continue. But you know, if we have a will, we can move in that direction. And one of our students yesterday said, I'm going to be living in a place that has Google Fiber. And I'm thinking of just how many towns he has to choose from.
Right.
But he's not going to live in Meigs County. He's not going to live in Gallia or Vinton.
Not going to live, yeah. Not around in southern Ohio, in most
But
cases.
you know, if cellular connectivity is replacing copper twisted pairs from your phone provider, maybe that becomes an option. And you ought to test that.
Yep. Yep. True.
ConnectOhio.org, good website for looking at your particular neighborhood, your precinct, and being able to drill down on knowing where your providers are, who they are, and the speed and cost of it. And they've done a really good job with companies like JB Nets here to tell them where they have a cluster of homes and a population, what hillsides, how many they can reach with their wireless, and they know that they're going to lose money if they come out in my neighborhood,
Yeah.
just because the Amish don't particularly want it.
Right.
Is connectohio.com or org or what?
Org.
Org.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a part of Connected Nation, and I'll put in the plug for them. They're a good initiative.
Okay.
Good.
Initiative.
Sounds good. If you're looking for real estate, that would be maybe one of the first stops.
Well, you know, I think in some of these younger generations, that's all they look towards.
Right.
There's several people that don't, buy into TV.
Right.
They
Yeah,
don't
I don't
buy,
have DirecTV anymore.
cable TV or anything like that. Everything's online. They watch. If they don't watch it online, they don't watch it. So, that's
When we
another-
went to digital over the air, I lost the ability to get my TV, and I'm just glad there are other options. Anyhow, it's been a good half-hour show.
Yeah, it went by pretty quick. So thanks for joining us on Tech Talk, and we'll see you next month.